Well, no, I have one more question.
Go.
I think you know what's coming up.
Yeah. Actually, no, I don't.
The Orville.
What? That's not Star Trek. Not even in its fucking slightest characteristic. How the fuck do you bring in the Orville to this conversation?
You don't think the Orville is in any way like Star Trek?
No.
Really?
Yes.
All right, so absolutely Monster of the Week episodes.
Not even in the same wannabe universe.
They are a crew on a spaceship, exploring ostensibly. They are definitely doing diplomacy. Their main objective seems to be learn things, meet people, and do stuff. That's exactly what Star Trek was.
Sven, is Babylon 5 Star Trek?
No.
Then this is an erroneous metaphor.
But I don't think Babylon 5 had much to do with exploration of space at all. I think it had much more to do about the battle between fascism and democracy and freedom. I think it's about freedom of choice and freedom of expression versus tyranny and Big Brotherism.
Okay, fine. Then
That's what B5 was about.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think it was Star Trek. No,
exactly. But okay.
I think it's excellent sci-fi.
It is
Possibly the best
and
sci-fi.
Okay, yes, it is. I definitely agree. And Orville is really
okay.
good.
So you don't think it's even in the same realm, even though you can't deny the obvious parallels between the shows, right?
Just because there are obvious parallels between the shows do not mean that it is the same thing.
Okay, well, I bring it up because many on the web world have obviously noted the similarity and have said, is it the best new Star Trek? You know, like, not necessarily tongue-in-cheek, but not necessarily not.
Well, it certainly isn't the best new Star Trek. And I mean, considering the first season has some really stupid episodes where the chief helmsman decides... Lamar. Yeah. You know, just decide...
Or Malloy. Which one are you talking about?
Well, no. The
Ginger?
No, the black dude. The dude who decides to hump the statue
Lamar.
in season 1 in the
yeah.
most inappropriate way when they are trying to blend in and be...
Oh, yeah, that was super special. The social credit
the social credit episode. It definitely shares thematic elements with Star Trek, yes. But it goes about it in a very different way. Orville, to me, is more closely akin to Strange New Worlds than it is to Star Trek. You know what I mean? Like, if I have to bring it to a Star Trek show, it's more Strange New Worlds than anything else.
So then there's the other not Star Trek thing that people always bring up, of course, Galaxy Quest.
Oh... That,
because it's a parody.
Yeah, that's true. Well, this now you kind of like, is Spaceballs Star Wars? Like, I don't know how to answer this question.
I would argue that Galaxy Quest is a bit...
To me, I would say that it isn't Star Trek for the same reason why I would say that Orville isn't Star Trek, because it isn't named Star Trek, and it doesn't even try to be in my mind. But it's a parody of Star Trek, and it's so excellently done that I'm willing to grant it grandfathered in status to the Star Trek Legendarium.
Okay, word. Anyway, I just wanted to throw those last two things in there just to see where
I fall on them. Yeah.
Yeah, because I love Galaxy Quest. It's fucking awesome. You talked about B5 too. I mean, I've got to say, if you had, like, gun to head, which show...
If I had to choose between all Star Trek and Babylon 5, I'd choose Babylon 5, hands down, every day.
It was really, really hard for me to say that. That's why, I hedged my bet and said DS9, because that's sort of a no-brainer for me.
No, yeah, I'll hedge it against all of Star Trek. I mean, I love Star Trek, and it's fundamental. And...
So, but do we love Star Trek for a different reason than we love B5, though? Because B5 is an amazing story that is always going to be relevant, and seems more relevant today than it was 15 years ago, even then. And 15 years ago, it's like, wow, it seems so relevant now with, the Patriot Act is being renewed, and we've got drone strikes over in Syria that no one authorized, stuff like that. And now it seems to just continue to be that way.
Yeah.
So Star Trek is so much more aspirational than Babylon 5 is, especially early Trek.
Yeah.
And very much TNG is very aspirational. And I think we love it for that reason too, at least I do a little bit, because it is sort of, it'd be nice to live in a world where, scarcity isn't a thing. Most diseases are physical ailments, I should say, are treatable or curable or whatever, you don't have to worry about this. It's that utopia kind of mindset. We are free now to pursue our delights and interests rather than a daily grind to survive sort of life.
It's a better world to aspire to. Babylon 5 does a good job of showing a more realistic future and how I would guess how things are going to unfold.
just think about down below on B5.
Yeah.
You know, even B5, a shining beacon of hope, all alone in the night, has an actual like
underbelly,
crime
syndicate.
Underbelly, I suppose.
Yeah. It's the light and the grit all put together. But Star Trek, especially TOS, is a lot more hope and optimistic. Well, I mean, the TNG does this too.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a lot more hope and optimism and the shining
and
bright.
to an extent,
Go.
So is Voyager, actually. Like, some of the shit, the decisions Janeway makes are, like, really tough sort of life and death decisions between, do I follow the code that I have sworn to uphold by my Starfleet oath, or am I going to take more direct but less ethical path home, or mode of transport home kind of thing? You know, there's a lot of that stuff, like sticking to your Starfleet guns morality discussion as well, where she generally almost always sticks with her higher ideals from the Federation. So that kind of shows that those are deeply ingrained and important, not just in TOS and TNG, where things are generally good, but where they're also shit, like they are in Voyager ostensibly.
Yeah, because at that point, it's baked into the culture, especially if you've grown up on Earth. It's baked into the culture of like what you've fought for and what you've won. So it makes a lot more sense that you're going to hold those ideals closer to your heart than someone would. I mean, if like in like Enterprise per se, because those ideals don't exist and struggle is a lot more pertinent.
Yeah, at that point in Star Trek lore and in the timeline, they haven't begun exploring outside of their solar system yet. You know, I mean, they were limited to a couple times, or warp factor 2 or something like that for a long time. The NX-01 is the first warp 5 capable starship. And don't ask me about the log tables about how much faster than light that is, but I know that 5 is 2.5 times greater than 2, except in warp, in which case it's probably like 40 times faster than 2. I have no idea. It's weird.
Yeah, but
that's super fast.
That actually brings me to another point that I was thinking about before we started this. In Enterprise, are there any colonies on like Mars or any of the moons of like Jupiter or some shit like that?
Yes, there are.
I couldn't remember.
There's lunar colonies.
Okay.
I don't know about Martian colonies yet. I think yes.
Because I don't know how...
at least Mars bases.
Yeah.
But I know there's a lunar mining colony, for sure, because the entire finale, I'll recall the finale, revolves around some mining operation people on the moon. That aspirational nature of Star Trek is why we like Star Trek.
Yes.
We like the characters, and we like the thought and the hope of a future like that. Even though we're never going to see it, we should be planting those trees so people can enjoy that shade sort of mentality.
Absolutely.
And Babylon 5 is a more realistic prognostication of what humanity could hope to achieve. And even then, it's really, really helped out by other races selling them technology. Without jump gate technology, the fast travel technology, humanity doesn't explore.
Yeah. They specifically state that. Yeah, we were limited to our own solar system before the Centauri came and she gave us jump tech. So
in that respect, it's a little more realistic as well. On the other hand, we are speaking now B5 instead of Star Trek, and we've strayed from the light and the way that is Gene Roddenberry, I suppose.